changing the world, and the Biden administration and the bullies in Brussels are absolutely powerless to stop it. Vladimir Putin is busy recalibrating the geopolitics of Africa around Russia. Last week, Putin hosted the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg and shocked the world by announcing a comprehensive strategic partnership with the whole of the African continent, particularly in what's known as the Sahel region. Putin trumpeted the fact that Russia holds by far the largest share of the global wheat market. Russia produces nearly 100 million tons of grain a year, a full 20% of the wheat production on the planet. Putin then announced, to the astonishment of all the attendees, that Russia will be supplying 6 nations like Zimbabwe, Burkina Faso, Somalia, and Eritrea, with up to 50,000 tons of grain each in the next 3 to 4 months. And here's the kicker: absolutely free. Many analysts recognize that if President Putin follows through with this commitment, it would be a game changer in the ongoing geopolitical battle for influence and resources throughout the continent of Africa. Now, of course, Putin is making this deal on the heels of having officially exited what's called the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The initiative had served as a rare diplomatic compromise between Russia and Ukraine that allowed Ukraine to export millions of tons of wheat, corn, barley, and other crops despite Russia's blockade of its ports. Several days back, Putin put an end to that deal, with Russia's foreign ministry announcing that it could no longer guarantee the security of any Ukrainian ships through the Black Sea. Obviously, the end of the initiative has had major implications for global food prices, with the price of wheat shooting up over 5%, contributing to a surge in food prices worldwide. With food prices soaring throughout the world, Putin announced to these African leaders that they are now officially exempt from that food inflation. Russia is officially granting at least 6 African nations, again, Zimbabwe, Mali, Somalia, Eritrea, upwards of 50,000 tons each per country of free grain. Moreover, Putin also announced that Russia would be forgiving billions of dollars of African debt. And he was forgiving that debt as a gesture of solidarity in their support for traditional moral values and the resistance against the insanity of the woke West. Putin reiterated Russia's commitment to strengthening its ties with African nations, highlighting Russia's consistent support for anti-imperialist and anti-colonial movements during the Soviet period. So to what end? Why is Putin doing this? Well, we're already seeing it. Last week, members of the Nigerian military staged a coup, ousting their president Mohamed Bazoum. As of Friday, the military announced that General Abdurrahmani Chine was the official leader of the nation. On Sunday, a pro-coup crowd began surrounding and eventually storming the French embassy in their capital city. But what was so fascinating is that they were chanting pro-Russian slogans and flying Russian flags in protest. And they weren't alone. The leader of Burkina Faso, a nation that also went through a coup, referred to Russia as family to Africa. And when word got out that European leaders were considering sending troops to Niger to quell the coup and reinstate Bazoum, nations such as Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea, all nations in the Sahel region that's receiving that free wheat from Russia, declared their allegiance to the new regime in Niger, stating that an attack on Niger is an attack on them all. In the meantime, the French, who long colonized the region, are being humiliated as more and more of their citizens are evacuating the entire Sahel region. Are you seeing a pattern here? A powerful populist movement known as Pan-Africanism, where more and more African leaders are calling for the expulsion of European political and cultural influences left behind from the colonial period. And they're seeking instead to cultivate a uniquely African civilizational world. So as you can see, it's an incredibly vibrant movement. For Africans, Russia is seen as a model for how a nation can rebuild itself into what scholars call a civilization state, which is something that's catching the bullies in Brussels and the dolts in D.C. completely off guard. Russia is successfully expanding its influence based on linguistic and cultural criteria rather than international law or ethnicity. Russia's emphasis on traditional moral values and the centrality of religion in civic life, together with its resistance against Western colonialism, has made Russia a powerful ally for the rising re-traditionalism that's permeating the African continent. Africans are increasingly seeing themselves far more in solidarity with the traditionalist vision of the world coming out of Moscow than they are the absurd woke world coming out of D.C. and Brussels. A new world is being born right before our very eyes, a far more nationalist, populist, and traditionalist world that seems little bothered over leaving us behind. Russia is changing the world, and the